Hey, y'all, how's it going?
Hey,
Y'all gave your introduction, so it's nice to meet y'all, and I'm glad that there's this global push for modern music, modern thinking, innovation, all of those things, because it's necessary as we've seen through everything going on. So yes, my name's Jordan, and I'm the GCS Entertainment Arts Curator and the Modern Music Production Program. I'm curating the Modern Music Production Program. So I wanted to talk about the program that was coming to Penn School for the Arts that's in High Point, but part of Guilford County Schools. This immersive and interactive opportunity is for all of the musical learners around, and no matter what their skill is, and it's offered to all GCS students. So High Point and Greensboro are neighboring each other, and typically, if you are in High Point, you would go to Penn School for the Arts. In Greensboro, you go to Weaver Academy. But this program is helping drop that veil and allow all people the opportunity and access to this new program. So, this new program, students will learn about modern musical creation and invest themselves in live sound, musical engineering, creative songwriting, modern instrumentation, podcasting, community performances, and a lot more. Um, so these courses will be held in a state of the art recording studio that's being built into the school, Penn Griffin, and a curriculum that's designed and tailored specifically to the musical interests of the youth and the climate of the community that we're serving. So the music that comes out of the studio, we want to be as diverse as the youth that create it. And they will be the first class of students in the nation to experience this new creative program. So, this program is in partnership with a national nonprofit called Notes for Notes. And it's an organization that provides youth with free access to contemporary musical instruments, instruction, and recording studio environments so that they can become a profoundly positive influence in their it can be a profoundly positive influence in their life, and they can be in the community as well. So I'm going to share my screen real quick, and I'll show you a little bit of their website. I heard, and I believe it. One of you said that you were in Atlanta, correct? Yes. So I'm not sure if you've heard of Notes for Notes, but it's actually right around your corner. There is a studio in a Notes for Notes studio in Atlanta. So Notes for Notes, and I try to flip between me being a student as well, because I definitely talk as if this has saved me in some ways as well. And I think it's important to be able to make that transfer from, oh, this impacts me as an adult just as much as it can impact someone that's youth, especially in the way that instruction has changed. But Notes for Notes, traditionally, they put these free studios that have free access in boys and girls clubs across the country, and the they students are able to come in and record anything that makes them happy. They can create anything that makes them happy. They can explore new instruments, as you see. So as I continue to scroll, you see that the advisory board that they have is created of famous musicians and musical organizers and producers. Some that may be familiar. For example, there was a Las Vegas studio opened by Brendan Urie. We see that Slash is a part of this mindset towards music education growth in a community setting, and there are lots of other artists on here as well. So the Notes for Notes team is small yet mighty, and all of these either program directors or area directors, they all support the studios that are across the country. So Notes for Notes studios, I believe there are a little over 25, 26, and those are all placed, like as I said, in various states. So New York, Georgia, Nevada. I might be missing one. Definitely some in California, and the list goes on. And so now they are in North Carolina, and they have chosen Guilford County Schools to be the first venture inside of the public school system. So the collaboration is pretty amazing. So the program that's coming, sorry, I actually had my screen up for y'all. So the program that is coming is going to be held in the state of the art recording studio that is being built. So I'm going to go back to the first picture. So this is the outside of what the building will look like outside of the space. And as they continue in, this is what the main control room will look like, which has access to different parts of the studio. And these are all learning spaces. They all just are tailored towards something different. So right behind this space you see, there are I say lounge style seating, but it's, I would say, comfortable to get your mind right for being creative in a new way. Um, and there's a pretty large performance area that's right in front of it as well, that students can collaborate and create in that space, that also can be recorded into. So the space you were just looking at, it was right here, and here's the seating that's right behind. So that's one form of a classroom. And I'll zoom in just a little more. And the next space, and as you see, there are recording booths that are around this one side. So this is another angle of that, and there is a wall that is created of the influential artists of time, but also those in the local community, and that is throughout all of the different Notes for Notes studios. So depending on its location, they will have artists that represent that community that will be put up, which is also very cool. Here is an example of what a classroom looks like. It is a desk-free classroom. Um, Guilford County Schools is 1-for-1, or very close to 1-for-1, for our students having devices as well. So they will be using their devices inside this space, whether it's laptop or tablet, along with the equipment that's around here. But as you see, there's a projection screen that's behind, and that's bringing in industry professionals, bringing in musicians to come speak to classes, and things of that sort. So there's another set of recording booths, as you see, and there is a podcasting room in this back corner over here as well. So there's about 10 recording booths in total, and every single one of these rooms can be routed to each other as well, so that all rooms could be used at once, and there could be some massive collaboration project that was being created, which is really cool.
Perfect.
So
Jordan, I think that some of our people have questions if you want.
sure,
Do you want them to
yeah,
type it in the
actually,
chat?
please stop me anytime.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm all about that.
Jordan, so I just have a question for you. So in GCS, what devices are students walking in with that they'll be utilizing in this space?
The devices that I know of right now that are being used are they are like Android tablets or Windows tablets, excuse me,
Okay.
and some of them have laptop computers. I think we're a Windows-based county right now, so I do not believe they're Apple products, but there are iPads actually that are being used as well.
Yes. So something I'm always after is we have
K
Chromebooks,
through
right?
three.
And
Gotcha.
Chromebooks are a double-edged sword in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
So we always, find challenges in getting, for example, recording, audio, video, etc. on Chromebooks. So I'm just, if there's any secret sauce, I'm wanting to know the secret. So
Well,
that's
so actually about secret sauce, because I'm all about that too. As we get towards the end, I'll be talking about what we're doing now, and what we're doing now is utilizing what we have to be as excellent as we can with what we have. So the studio's not built, and we've been creative and innovative with the technology that we have, and so maybe hopefully I can show you some things that we've been doing with the Chromebooks and just the equipment that we have to be successful. So yeah. Sorry. I was saying that this program's offered 6th through 12th grade, and 6th through 8th grade is without an audition, and 9th through 12th grade is with an audition. So it's for all students, again, in Guilford County Schools that have the ability to audition for this program. And if a student's outside of our district, they can apply as well. Um, so I'm gonna talk about the interview process a little bit, because an audition sometimes is limiting to who has the access to be inside of a space like a school of the arts. But we were trying to create a process that would allow the space for those that were interested in the sake of like growth mindset to even create space for them when they otherwise wouldn't be able to get in with like a musical talent. So as I said earlier, anyone can walk into the space at any step that they're in. So the interview is a social emotional interview, and it's based on aptitude for creating and collaborating on on modern music and just with others. So we do ask if like they have some demonstration, no matter what it is, of their art for them to show. And that is art across the board. So yes, this is modern music production, but kind of separate all of those words. If they are creators, we offer space and opportunity for growth. So the pillars and the questions that I'm about to go through, which are the questions I ask the youth, these also act as the standards or pillars for success that we're looking for, and how students will be assessed. The initial questions will also act as the initial formative assessment for that scale that each individual learner will be assessed on. So first is confidence, and so the questions are: tell me about a time when you felt confident in creating something new. How does a confident person behave, and how can you tell when someone is confident? So just assessing what they believe about their confidence and what they know about what that even means, and where that invitation part starts. Creativity is the next one. What do you think makes a person creative? What kind of creator are you? So to see where they're really starting in the sense of, do they view themselves as someone who is an artist or a creator, or is there someone who lend themselves maybe to facilitating and want to experience creating? Just trying to figure out where to make all of those intersections lie and shine. And then last, we have tell me about a time where you felt really creative or you've done something really creative. So the third pillar is compassion, and we ask, do you believe that music can communicate emotion? Tell me about a time when you created or listened to or made you feel something emotion, or listened to or created something that made you feel emotional, and giving them the space to share that experience if they'd like to, or just talk about the experience of what did that for them. Um, our fourth pillar is community, and that's when we share the art and music we create with our communities. We grow, and we grow our abilities to understand and share the feelings of one another. Is there a time? Is there a time when you created something that makes you think of your friends, family, or even strangers that they would know you better, that would know them better from their creation? So, just trying to get some initial thoughts about how they view themselves as a member of community, as someone that facilitates community or is a part of community, and just kind of figure out where they lie on that spectrum as well. And lastly, collaboration. So collaboration is all about sharing a vision with others to reach a common goal. Tell about a time where you were collaborative. Is it easy for you to ask for help? So that is the last question. Is it easy for you to ask for help? And just these are all these questions. When they're answered, they are recorded on a video. So we're watching disposition, we're watching body language. Um, it is not a situation where if a student does not check off one, they don't have an opportunity. It's more of how many do they have strength in, and where are some good points to grow in, and what their overall goals really within that creativity and compassion component lie for us to um, give access
So
into.
have you been through the audition process yet? I mean, is this the first year of the program, or
Yes, but I have gone through the audition process. So
how
we
many did you have?
for the audition process, there were about 15, and it seems about 7 got in.
And that's 7 at the high school, or is that 7K?
7 in the high school. So this process that I'm talking about right now is specific through to the 9th through 12th graders. And those are the ones that will get a little different of experience than middle school. The way that the schedule's built is that every grade level should be able to cycle in and out of that program, which will hopefully aid in its growth.
Okay.
Let's see. So, how do we plan to operate? So, I wanted to share about what that process will look like when the studio is built, um, which, correct me if I'm wrong, we're looking at January, right? Yes.
Yep.
So,
Starting in October, that process of upfitting and
okay,
hopefully be done by sometime in the spring
okay.
2020. Hmm.
So,
Can
with
I ask you a question? And
yeah,
I'm sorry.
good.
So did there are a couple pieces I'm trying to put together in my mind.
Okay.
So was this a grant that you received and was this an existing building that you're retrofitting, or how? What about
That
that?
is correct. And I probably should have mentioned that. So this is through one of our federal grants, the Lyceum Grant. And so, yes, this is the heart of the grant is modern music, curriculum and having this modern music program. We found out about Notes for Notes, which so it just made a perfect situation where we could use them to upfit the current space at Penn Griffin. And so, yes, that is correct. It is through a federal grant that we're funding the upfitting of this project.
Gotcha.
And we love your questions. Keep them coming.
Yes, please. Did y'all? Were there any more questions so far? Cool. So I was talking about our plan for operating. So the operation plan is close to what I'll share at the end because that's kind of what we're doing now. Um, and the plan for operating when the space is there is the large pillars are experiential learning and project based learning. um, and we're looking at internal, which means like personal musicianship and like goals for the learner in this sense of like how will their growth happen inside of modern music production, like what are the different tools that they will use to grow their self individually. And what I mean by external, which is the other side of this, will be how will we problem solve for our direct community, which is like the studio is kind of going to hug the school like a blanket. So I'm going to look to all the other arts disciplines to collaborate. And depending on what their need is, I will build curriculum based off of that. So, for example, if the English department was working on a poetry project and they wanted to do an EP, an extended playlist for poetry that they were ciphering, we could get specific youth, whether they're 9th through 12th, or depending on um, what range is working on these things. We get them together and talk about the different things necessary to record someone's voice into a microphone. How do you get those things to convert onto a platform where you can download them? So, letting specific situations guide the way that the classroom moves. For example, like learning live sound and engineering partners well with a tech theater as they're getting ready for a musical, so they can work on those skill sets as well. So a personal note for me is my big goals have always been, as an educator, creating a global community, and that's having awareness inside of those intersections, but also understanding some of those big spaces. So as much as the program is going to hug the school community, we're going to reach deep inside of the Greensboro High Point community as well, and figure out what ways they can be creatively successful. There are a couple music festivals around here that hopefully working to get apprenticeships with, so that students can shadow on that high school level, and then maybe ways to have those that are on the middle school level showcase their works and their creativities in some of those spaces. So on it
I
and on go ahead,
Oh,
sorry.
sorry, Jordan. I actually have a question for you, and I think I'm saying it because I think it'll be helpful. What would you say is the biggest why for modern music? We already have traditional music programs that are very successful. So, how would you articulate that, the need for this?
I think I know that the the need is the production part of the breakdown of what I was saying. I believe that music production is a lens that has always seemed, at least in this world over here, seemed a little taboo and wasn't something that was a part of the way that instruction has worked, but it's something that we all directly participated in, whether we heard our favorite artists, whether we our children whatever they're listening to as well, those things are being produced, and youth are learning these in different ways, such as TikTok. I know a lot of people give things on TikTok a hard time, but it gives you the technical tools to do some of the things that they would learn in a school-based program. So it's kind of meeting youth in a where they're at, or kind of meeting the world where it's at, because it's part of what we do already. So I think the need for this is that it is new and innovative, and includes it allows the inclusion of this hybrid learning that has been forced upon us, just as much as all the skill base that we can get from being in a choir room, a band room, and any of things, and allow those things to morph and interchange and weave together. So just becoming a new process to reaching those that are already reaching out for these things, but makes it seem as if it's wrong or right. For example, I had a student last year who didn't find space in choir. I fought really hard to try to get him in for 4 years. And I ended up having the opportunity to showcase him as a music producer and recording artist, but it was outside of high school. And he said that's where I found myself, that I was able to create intimately for myself in that way. And, I'm glad that he found that, but the opportunity to reach so many that have a desire to use those things as ways of expression. And on top of all of that, I think taking a step outside of this, it allows us to still be able to assess growth mindset. It allows, I would say, for even more space to make connections between some of the practical tools they'll need when having to create and build something new, or facilitate a project that might have a missing hole. So for example, some of the ideas that I have are like, if a student really loves pop music and they really love Michael Jackson, and their first instrument is voice, they're a singer first. Well, what I would do is make sure the first thing that they get to experience is using the thing that's most comfortable, which is their singing. So that's providing a produced track. Let's say I found Michael Jackson's Beat It, and I found the beat, I found the music, and I gave it to them. And then the thing that they got to work on was, how do they make their voice sound the way that they want their voice to sound coming through a microphone? And so they get to problem solve in that way, and then maybe get to turn around and then they become the piano or the keys and learn some basic keystrokes or keyboard skills for creating another song. So I feel like there's endless opportunities to, yes, get them to make art, but also get some of this global understanding through the experience of solving a problem for either another department or participating in the community, those things.
All right, so I've got a question. Now, if the purpose was for you guys to make us jealous, that's working. But I have a feeling there's some other purpose, the reason that you're sharing this. I mean, can you kind of give me the top-down view of why you're sharing this now? And are you looking for partners, or are you just looking to share? Is this, I'm just kind of curious, because I'm learning a lot, but I'm kind of curious what our relationship is while we're together here.
So it's twofold. For us, it is checking a box for a grant because we're supposed to share with others. And then two is we are always looking for collaborators. Like Maria Elena and I have already discussed that we want to speak with you about your work with Pierce Freelon to find out what you're doing, because he is someone, he was the keynote speaker at the NCAEA
Cool.
convention this past year.
Awesome.
So I'm really interested in what you're doing with him, and like, are you doing like a black space type something in your districts, because he seems like he and Notes for Notes would tie in very well.
Yeah, and his Beat Lab program is what we went through. And,
Yeah.
it took a bunch of band kids, flute, clarinet, whatever, and really changed the way I think they looked at music. And me observing it changed what I wanted to do with music. So I'd love to partner with you. This is a lot of good information. And I'm totally jealous too, but it's good information in addition. So
what I will say, and I'm speaking on behalf of being an educator that has been saved through participating in something like this. I also believe that, like, from me, alongside the collaboration that they're talking about, this cannot be something that's held inside of a unique community. It is something that has to be a reach into Wilmington just as much as it's a reach into Atlanta,
Mhm.
Georgia. And I think I say that because that's exactly what we are doing now. That is the way that we are
Mhm.
actually operating without us being in person. So I will share what we're
Yeah.
doing now.
Can I add one thing before you start, Jordan? I wanted to add a third point to what Leanne said. Ultimately, we would love to see this replicated in other districts, and we want to serve this, you know, this time as a time of inspiration, and we want to be a resource to you. We don't want to be just the only ones, oh, we're so special doing this. Like, we ultimately want to see, we believe in all students having access to this ultimately. And so we just want to jumpstart that conversation, if that makes sense
Yeah,
as
it
well.
does. And honestly, I know it's probably beyond the scope of this particular call because I know what your goals are here. But I'm looking at doing this with some ESSER funds. I'm looking at doing something similar. What I'm looking at doing is trying to set up small recording studios in each one of our high schools and a music production class to go along with it, to take the place of our guitar class that we have now, which I think is played out. So I would love to have those additional conversations because I'm flying blind in terms of equipment, in terms of curriculum, just in terms of approach. So
That's great. That's great. And I know Jordan's a great resource for that. And even the Notes for Notes team, which he has that connection as well. So we'll continue that conversation 100%. That's great.
sorry to interrupt. I'm
Don't
just
interrupt. This is your time. This is why we're doing this as well. So this is
100%.
great. Yeah. Sorry,
That's what I was
Jordan, go
gonna
for it.
say. Oh no, you're good. That's exactly what I was gonna say. I would say I think I could be a great help with twisting things and making them look another way, and then also just like what resources are necessary to make something look excellent, be excellent, all those things. What I do love about production, that's what I was going to say about myself. It's allowed me to find space as an artist. Like I am a creator, I am an educator, I'm a lot of different things, but I've been able to find unique space for me to be an artist with all my skills that I've gotten from my different schools. I went to UNCG as well. I directed Spartones, if you remember
oh
what they
well,
were.
I went long before you did. I
Oh,
graduated in '93, so
oh, okay. Yes.
yeah,
But it's okay.
beyond.
But the UNCG Spartans were there.
Yeah, they were. I
Um,
remember seeing them. They were wonderful.
and I just know that like my specific walk of life was allowed was allowed through production. And I do believe that my unique like outlook and the way that I viewed myself through music education didn't align with the things that I was seeing. And I felt like I pushed hard in my program before to create some of the experiences that I know you can create with the resources that you already have. So just let me know.
Great. Thank you.
Um, with that, I'll go ahead and show you everything that we have been doing. So because of all things last year, all things that are still going on, um, we have created a Notes for Notes digital space, kind of using the Canvas platform. And so basically, students come on, and we're using the powers of Zoom, Canvas, and a platform called Soundtrap. And I'll show Soundtrap in a second. So on Canvas, it's broken down like a regular class. You meet the teacher, get started, able to do those things. But when you hit live teaching time, so what we're doing is the Notes for Notes team, those program directors that you saw on the website that are across the country, they're tapping in at specific times, Eastern Standard Time, to teach small groups of youth. Now, and I'm only saying this because you said something about it. This is where it could just be a teacher with a small group. But these teachers would show different things with music production inside of the platform Soundtrap, which is right now free for any music education purpose. So this is kind of what it looks like when you get to Soundtrap. And these studios allow for students to be able to collaborate across the world. So if we enter a studio, which I've already opened, it can show who the collaborators are. So it says that I'm here, but this is another student's song that they have been working on. But it allows me the space to go in, and I've just changed something in her arrangement, and she's going to email me screaming. So I'm going to put it back. And but it allows me to I can go in and record vocals because that's what I'm good at. And she really loved making the beat. So let's not go back. I'm going to show you a little bit. So that the sounds that you heard, that was just a very simple beat that she made. And I'm like, cool, I already caught something that to my ear, and allows me the space to go in and sing something that'll inspire another message from them. And you can bounce off, and you can work with as many people. So another practical example of this, I have another friend who is the course teacher at the Penn Griffin School for the Arts. He saw Soundtrap working. He's like, okay, so how do I use this in my space already? He wasn't going for production, but he focused on an instrument that made sense for him, choir. And he has all of his choir students record 16 voices. So they can all come in into one project, record all their voices. It can be exported and tampered with and add effects and clean up. And then they have a product that they can show for a virtual choir.
And Jordan, they're in different locations. They're at home, they're at school, they're wherever, and all this is
and
done.
iPad, phone. This is anywhere. You can use on any device.
But is this MIDI or is actually recording wave audio?
Yes and no. So you this semester, because I kind of left that out, students have been using the Mpk Minis, and have been not this, but they have a microphone. There you go. Mpk Mini, and there's a microphone that I'm sure one of them has semi close to that could that they could show. Okay, boom, a widget mic. This is me speaking off of my personal experience. I had those came out 25 years ago, 20 years ago that are still MIDI controllers that do still plug into these things. That's all that's needed. So it is recording MIDI, but we use the microphones to record audio in, and then we can engineer inside of Soundtrap. Soundtrap is also powered with, do you know what Splice is? It's okay if you don't, because Splice is a sample library. A sample library that allows someone to borrow very unique individual sounds or loops. Let's see if I can find one actually. So, okay, for example, let's say we're looking for jazz and I needed something to inspire me. So I have a little bit of a bass walk line, and that already gave me a feel. Now I know what kind of drums I'm looking for, and they can find something that can fit on top of that, or they can create themselves inside of these different pads. Let's see if I can pull one up. So for example, they have the opportunity to use a virtual drum kit, and you see it's assigned to numbers or letters on a keyboard. So they try to make it as accessible as possible to be able to collaborate.
Jordan, was there a reason you got like the MK MIDI device versus just like a 49 key?
Yes, because and I've had to figure out what that was for me. I don't know the direct answer above me. That is a decision that Notes for Notes made. But in my assessment of why I would choose it is, one, portability, two, they're controllers. So I've had to separate in my mind the difference between a keyboard and a controller. This Mpk Mini is what quite a few people that are Billboard charting artists, rappers use in their studios. And they have the ability to create chord patterns and access the notes that are necessary to create a structure. And if they understand their platform or their digital audio workstation like Soundtrap, they can take those chords and lay them out on the MIDI track and it play in a different way. Or they can put arpeggiation, which is notes going up and down in a different place. They can add that onto one of their tracks, and then it can give them a different feel. So it's a very good controller tool. I also have a keyboard, and that's why in the classrooms, in the booths, it looks like there are controllers that are around that size that you were saying, that gives them the flexibility to also be able to play if that's their sound, that's their strong suit. So I choose the controller, especially when there is no access to music production except for music that they've ever heard.
Right.
And it gives a very, very small space to, okay, you have 8 beat pads. We're going to learn how to map beat pads. Okay, cool. Beat pads can be beats or sounds. That's all you need to know in a structure of 8. And then in the sense of the keys, they can learn everything they need to know for a full size keyboard on the smaller controller and be able to make that transfer of knowledge. I will say this one has black bottom keys and white upper keys, which is backwards, but it's okay. So I'll probably say choose the other color palette, but that it's a very strong tool.
So question, does each one of the students in Guilford County schools that are going through note for note will have one of those at home or has one now?
Right now, the students that are inside of this program specifically do have the widget microphone that was shown, and this MIDI controller that these were passed out at the beginning of the semester.
Okay, that is pretty awesome.
Hey, Jordan, so are you guys, and I hate to keep going back to this, but it's what I live every day. I mean, are the kids using mostly Chromebooks when they're on Soundtrap?
Yes. So
they're hooking the controller up to the Chromebook?
Yes. So the controller is big words for you can connect it into an iPad, a computer, or a mobile device. So its input can shift based off of the piece that's plugged into it. And yes, they can. If they cannot, Soundtrap is intuitive, very, very intuitive, to the point where you can use your keyboard without this to be able to create as well. So some of our iPad users have had to not be able to use the keyboard that the way that they've wanted to for producing this semester. And we've just been using Zoom, by the way, to communicate like this. So that I can turn around and show the Zoom whiteboard and build a chord, and then they can turn around and play that chord, and I can watch them build it. And once they put in one sound, to your point earlier, Kelly, if they play one sound, because of the way that MIDI works, I can copy a piece of it and play it in 3 different places and then shift its pitch up. And now I have a 4-chord progression after I played one thing. So that's what I meant by an endless playground of opportunities when it comes to production. You can morph, you can shift, you can match, you can cover, you can do all of those things. So lastly, with that, so the producers that are as the instructors as well, they all come from very different walks of life. We all are very, very different. Some of them are drums, some of them are bass, some of them are vocalists, some of them aren't any of them, and DJs, but they all do some kind of like mixing or some kind of artistry regarding recording and production. And so the end of last semester, our big goal for this program that did not exist, that we wanted to see something come afterwards, was we took the creations of the youth and put together an album of their work. So I was getting some glitches with my sound. I'll try sharing one more time. Just let me know if you can hear it or not. So this group, let's see. So the names, crispy chicken. Sorry about that. So the names that you see called the beats or the keys or the snare, all of those, these are the names of the groups of like 8 students or specific youth that participated in that track that was created.
Oh, you'll just have to try it.
SoundCloud has advertisements.
I participate in McDonald's.
I'm loving it. All right. Can y'all hear this? Okay.
We were just kids playing in the schoolyard, thinking we would never grow up.
All right, so Jordan, can you real briefly, can you just tell me what they did to get to that point that we heard right there?
Yes. So I actually was gonna dissect a little bit of what you just heard. So I'm gonna play a little more. So this will be a little more specific.
Can't wait for the summer days. Get out and I'll dance away.
All right. So the song's called Endlessly. So to get to that point, so a couple things had to happen. The pillars for what you heard in the song first. So because we're breaking this down, it's probably not the way that it was built. But typically, when people are building their own individual tracks, it's based off the idea that it started with, whether it's rhythm or melody. So I believe that the melody came first for what you just heard. There was a guitar track in the background that was going dun 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 dun, and then after that, they found the drums that matched alongside with it, and then the singer added her vocals.
Now, was that a plate? Was that MIDI based too, even the guitar, or was that recorded live?
That was not recorded live. That is the power of Splice. So
Okay.
Splice gave them a little motive that they could use and loop and then pitch in different places to get the sounds that it wanted, and then they could go and record it in the way that made it sound smooth.
I mean,
Now
it
this is also
sounds
with,
great.
oh, thank you. It's with student. I will say it's with educator dissection as well. So this is where I make connections to being at university at a classical music school. You know, they were firm in learning about structure, just like all songs have structure as well. So it was a cool place to talk about form, because there's form in popular music just as much as there is in classical music. So those connections still exist. They aren't eliminated with the process that's being approached. I think what is eliminated are the boundaries of where creation can start. And those three ideas that you heard, and I want to just make sure that I'm right. I'm gonna play just a little more.
Make up for the time we miss. I'm checking off my bucket list.
So those are four different sounds. Those are four different things that were layered besides her voice, and so that is pop. Also, that is what pop is like: simple, get you to the point, and what the feel is. But even more so, what four things can you put together to make a song, and that is what she got from it. So,
And so when they were working on it, were they just working towards something that they thought sounded good, or were they looking at, okay, I need a third minor here, or what was that like?
it was interesting because especially with middle schoolers. So this whole program this year has been just with middle schoolers, not high schoolers.
So that was middle school?
Oh, those are all middle school. Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
And
cool.
yeah, I'm still blown away by that. I'm just like, no, what am I doing? But I'll get back to recording my song. Like, oh man, look at that. So yeah, I think it is a couple of things, and this is what I meant by I've learned so much. So my counterpart that's in my class, we have three different classes. My counterpart, her name's Jen, and I watched her teach a youth how to understand the steps on the keyboard, but also then the relationship to just building a chord, and it eliminate all of these other things that were just inculcated in my mind with it had to happen first. That's how you had to get there. Instead of here's the experience, replicate. We dissect after we replicate. This is how we pull apart what we just did and shift it by one and feel minor and major. This is how we push it up a couple tones and then have a completely new key or different chord. Now we have a pattern. And once it was always affirmed within micro patterns what they were learning. And I remember jumping in and out. I'd come back, let's say 4 classes later, and I'd be like, yeah, I just built a C chord. I think this one's A. And I'm like, okay, like it's really cool to watch the
So
progression.
what you guys were doing is really structuring intuition so they can make the connections. Is that basically what?
Yes, it's flipping the building process, which was which for me looked like the giving them the answers and talking about how it can solve other problems. So that's been a game changer for it aligned with who I was as a choral educator and the way that I chose to approach the classroom, to now seeing it where it just applies to everyone. And it's a logical system based off the way that we practice outside of high school as adults, where you're either met with a problem that you have to solve, and there are fractions of the answer, or here's the answer, let's apply the same logic to another problem. So I've been really impressed with that mindset towards watching these youth create, because I'm watching where they're at in their projects right now. I get to, oh, how'd they get there? And this is where I meant by they have guidance too. So there's some structure that comes alongside of making sure the song sounds like a song, and when they're songwriting, um, making sure that it's their words, but also it's on topic, and then it also fits in a certain amount of bars that match the song that they created. So they get to pieces of those skills as they go, and then next time they build it, they start with some, and then we just go from there with what's next.
Sounds good. Really good.
So that was the entertainment arts class, and that mindset and kind of that work is going to be transferred into the first semester of work regarding the Penn Griffin program that starts up in August. So for like what I was going to do, or what I'm thinking about doing, I started something before COVID hit, called No Desk series, kind of like Tiny Desk,
Yeah.
but it allowed the space, eliminated like get from behind, all of the things you can think when I meant by No Desk. But that same, it's the same idea. So what I did was I would teach 4 or 5 chords, period. You don't have to know the piano. You don't have to know how it works. I need you to watch my hands and feel it. And then when I sing Perfect by Ed Sheeran, you know that you're doing it correct because we locked together. So that was our first song that we did together. It was Perfect by Ed Sheeran. And then I had the guitars from the band class. This was during lunchtime. Guitars from the band class who may have learned guitar in another way, but I need them to only know 4 chords. If you didn't know that, let's look up the 4 chords. And then we had choir singers that could sing in harmony, so they were exercising a skill they understood, and fit inside that as well. And what I did is it was a song each month, or a couple songs each month, and it allowed us to tighten up. And then when I got them to a point where, okay, you played these different chords, I just labeled them and said switch. But then I could go next week and say, okay, these are the different notes. This is what a chord looks like. So when they change to something else, I'll be like, oh, this is a different kind of a chord. So that system worked really well when I was in a non-traditional setting. Um, and because we didn't talk about that, I do want to say that there is a still a difference in the mindset regarding participating when something is a class. So I will say I had success when it was non-traditional in the classroom during lunch, and they could build and create together at their free will with songs that they chose, all of those things. And in the classroom, we've gotten amazing productions out of them, but it's the still that I have to show up to school. So it's navigating that change is exciting because I don't know what it's going to look like right in front of it. But I know once they get to hear that product, it's, are you excited to show up now again after what you've done, what you've created?
That's what it's about, getting them excited. And that's,
Yeah.
if we're going to get over this pandemic, that's what we're going to all have to do. Get
Yeah.
kids excited again.
And I guess that's my last little piece as well. You said getting them excited, but I also do believe it requires us to get excited too. And I that's why I keep kind of sharing the joy of, I'm an artist too. Like, I'm an artist, and I'm excited about that. And I'm excited that I get to exercise those skills that I thought not only were dormant, but were not allowed, or any of the other things that our youth still feel as well, that don't come from those traditions. And there's way more of those now that we have a new kind of folk. And I said TikTok earlier, but it's real. That is a folk platform, a different kind of folk, and it has to be respected if they want other people to be inside of those spaces. So, you know, I've been gifted with I won't say the ability to be comfortable, but I don't mind approaching being uncomfortable. And for those that want to experience what it feels like, just in case you've never done it, whether it's production, using Soundtrap, anything music production, it's start wherever the arts, like the arts access was for you in the beginning. And if it wasn't musical, there's still places alongside production. Um, if you were fine arts, that's examining art covers and recognizing the space and the relationships between the art that was designed and the music that's being addressed. I've learned about that as well. So no matter what it looks like for you, I always encourage everyone. Soundtrap's free. It's less of a beast than it seems because of the powers of things like Splice and being able to start with an idea if you don't have one. I always tell someone, say, whatever your favorite song is, start with that one. Because
You guys utilize anything else other than Soundtrap?
Yes, but that when mixing and mastering, I'm sure that other program directors use different things. I use Ableton. I've used Logic. Ableton, I see Ableton Playground is in there, but I use Ableton Standard, which is the program I use. There's also Studio One, which is affordable as well. Logic is for Mac-based programs. Studio One goes across both. Pro Tools is across both. Ableton is across both. Yeah, so lots of different opportunities with those.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Jordan. Thank you, Kelly, and Armand, for showing up. We're just so excited to have you. Thank you for your questions and your insight. And again, we hope this continues to be a continual conversation. Jordan, actually, could you drop your email address, and I'll drop mine as well. Actually, you all probably have mine, but so we can keep connected. Are there any concluding thoughts or questions you both have?
I just want to say thank you because I really didn't know what to expect, but this is exactly what I hoped it was, which was to, you know, be aware of some resources and somebody who's blazing the trail, you know, so I don't have to figure everything out on my own. So, you know, and when you get things up and going, I mean, I'd love to come visit. Would love to come.
We would love that. We would love that.
Give me another excuse to come back up to Greensboro, Leanne.
Yes, come.
I need anymore.
And actually, when the studio is actually built, we'd love to have you.
I would
tour.
absolutely love to see it.
Come.
We're a STEAM school, and we're just starting a music technology class next year. My experience with teaching them at other schools has been without the equipment. So I'd be really curious to see how you guys are working it out up there, because I can get more money out here than I'm used to getting at other places. So I'd love to see that set up.
Well, you're going to be in our special list to invite once it's built. So just because you showed up today. So thank you. And so Jordan went ahead and posted his contact information. I put my email, and we want to hear from you. We'll be in touch.
All right, guys, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
See ya.